put little punch on this.
How are we doing?
We'll punch this up.
So let me also introduce Dan here, and Abby, and Anthony Scala. Dan and Anthony are father and son, although he often gets taken to be my son, so obviously a very handsome boy. And I nearly kicked the bucket. Is that meant to be there? Yeah, so watch that, Anthony, if you're moving back and forth. Shall I move it around the front? Yeah. Good. Good plan. So in case anybody who's watching isn't familiar with our setup here at London Glassblowing, this is our furnace, and that's kept work going 365 days a year, well, all being well, or most of the year, except when we're working on it. And we have a pot that contains 150 pounds or so, kilos, 150 kilos of glass. And we use, luckily, we use the same kind of glass in our studio that James uses in his. It comes from Sweden, and we buy it as little pellets. It's pelletized for safety purposes. Handling batch glass isn't very pleasant, and this is safe, makes it safe. So at the moment, they're preparing what's called a cup. Am I right in suggesting that? Yes. This is the cup. So effectively, we're going to create are you going to show us something? Oh, no, oh, right, sorry. Okay. Could I pop? Right. Oh, right. I've just received a message. Apparently, the people watching at home weren't privy to the beginning. Do I have to repeat all that? Oh, my Lord. Well, at least I'll repeat the introduction. Okay, so James Devereux, glassmaker extraordinaire, famous for making big work. He works for a lot of sculptors and artists who can't blow glass themselves. In fact, he works for a lot of glassmakers who can't work big that himself. So, and Louis Thompson, who works here, often goes to work with James in his studio when he's making something bigger than we can handle here. So James's equipment is geared for big works. And what I said earlier was he's going to be making a Clovis piece. We're not going to show you that for the moment, but eventually Anthony will get back. On camera, we've got Anthony Scala, absolutely supported by his dad, Dan, who used to work for the BBC, and really we're absolutely honored to have him helping us here today. You'll have seen his work at the Chelsea Flower Show or various concerts in the past. And we have Abby on the earphones, playing the earphones. Right. Abby, yes. Thank you. I think you should show them our kiln god. One of the things I mentioned earlier was that Louis and James do a lot of traveling. So we've got a little kiln god here, and it's Louis Thompson. And at the moment, he seems to be a bit of a leprechaun. But prior to that, he had a hat with corks on it because they were working in Australia last. So looks like they must be going to Ireland or somewhere next. Why have we got this hat? Can anybody explain the hat? Why have we got that hat? Oh, St. Patrick's Day. Okay. Oh, how often? He gets a new hat every other day. So listen, thank you very much for being here, all of you. It's wonderful to have a really a live audience. And thank you all for tuning in at home. Is that, have I more or less covered that? Oh, thank you so much. Good. Apologies for a slight technical hitch, yes. So I was just explaining, that's the furnace, that's where all the glass is, melted in a huge pot, about 150 kilos, and that stays on all the time. Either we're melting at a very high temperature, something like 1250 degrees centigrade, or we're working it at about 1100 degrees, or 1000 degrees, I think, and the glory hole is the reheating chamber on the left, where Louis is working at the moment. That's 1100 degrees constantly, but that's only on when we're working. So it does get quite warm in here. I'm ready for the next bit of... I do have a T-shirt. Don't panic. So has the cup, where's the cup? Oh, right. Oh, I see, okay. Oh, thank you, Louis. So that all happened so fast while I was busy apologizing for our technical hitch. The amber cup went into that little square kiln, and it's being kept hot at about 500 degrees centigrade. And now they're making a grey cup, and they're going to combine those. They're going to put the grey. Is the grey over the amber or inside it?
Inside, so we'll pick up the first cup.
Right. So we're going to pick up. Oh, thanks. Yes, I did. Right. Yes, I did. Okay. Anthony, could we go back to looking at the Clovis? We've had a question from the public, from our viewing public. So we're making what James calls, his series is called Clovis, and we're actually making one of those in amber and grey. And Anthony may show you, if you're lucky, later on. We've got a couple of amber and grey pieces. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Anthony. Horizontal ones in the gallery. So he's gone off to show you those. And we apologize for not having shown you that before. Hi. Hello. Harry, you should be doing this. Come. One of my colleagues hiding away. What am I supposed to be doing? Oh, good. Excellent. Oh, yes. So the very, very subtle, very beautiful colorway. Well, another thing that I did mention to our live audience sitting here in the gallery was that I have huge respect for James's courage. Well, for anybody who will make a piece, putting a lot of effort into it, and then attack it with a hammer, in his case, or in the case of Richard Jackson, whose work we've got in the gallery, he actually takes a diamond saw to his pieces very often as a mark-making exercise. So having made the form and having finished it beautifully, to then attack it in that way. Okay.
Persuading it to be the shape it wants to be with a hammer.
Okay, well said. So not attacking, delicately persuading it to take the shape he wants. How long has James been making? How long have you been making, James?
25 years.
Gosh, 25 years. It's flown by, hasn't it?
It's parts
Gosh.
now.
Louis, how long have you been making? 35. God. And how long have I been making? 45 or more. Yeah, okay. But they are much better glass blowers than I am. So luckily, because I'm old and decrepit, I'm able to ask them to help me make my work. So this is going to be a fairly small cup as I understand it. So is this just one gather? This cup?
No, this isn't going to be a cup. This is going to be, he's going to use this to start the cup. He's already got to make
Right.
another cup.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. point of clarification. So this is not a cup. This is what we call casing. So we've got a small bit of color on the nose, on the end of the iron. It's called the nose. And we've got a little bubble inside that, or we're about to have, and we've got a gather of clear over the top. So that he's putting the first bubble into there. What he did was he made a quick blow and he stopped the end of the hollow pipe with his finger, with his thumb rather. And it's already expanded a little. I don't know whether it's... Are you going to gather over that again? Yeah. Oh, right, to go in the cup. Yeah. So he'll make that bubble, it's called a parison, and then he'll gather over that and drop the hot glass inside the cup he made previously. I wonder if everybody at home saw the previous cup, which is now being stored in a small electric kiln, being kept hot until James is ready. It's good to see you. What is a cup? Good question. A cup, right. I'll show you a cup. If I can reach. Excuse me, can I? No, I don't think I can. Yeah. Can I just slip by? 1 second, thanks. A cup. That's one cup, and that's another cup. That's... Thank you, thanks. So I've been asked what the cups are, and these are cups that we've made previously for other jobs, for other things. And what James is doing is actually making one color go inside the other. And that's how we achieve some of these effects that you were looking at a little bit. So this is quite complicated with a white trail, and it's a special white glass that doesn't spread. And this is a cup that's got a fade. So it's a blue over white, and it's blown in such a way that it's faded. And it was a test, a color test, number 47. We get our colors mainly from Germany these days. There's a very good company, well, there was a very good company in New Zealand called Gaffer who made color, and they decided to relocate to the States, and that's a very difficult thing to do apparently. It didn't work out anyway, so now one of the German color companies, there are two, is making Gaffer color. Well, they're starting to make Gaffer color in Germany, and we have to get it from America. They export it to America and then we bring it back, which is crazy. So we're trying to persuade the Germans to let us have it direct. But if you were to look around the gallery later on, you'll see a whole range of ways of using the color. And the way the color is used depends on the effect you're trying to achieve. So we do all kinds of different things. Sometimes the color's on the outside, sometimes on the inside, sometimes it's overlaid the way they're doing. I think we're about to make another gather, and then we're going to fill that cup. It's called filling the cup. Right, you'll see it. Are you gonna be over by the kiln? So we're gathering more glass now. So the gather was slightly too big, so we're running off some of the excess. It isn't wasted. We tend to reuse the clear. We can't reuse the glass that's got color in it, but we can reuse the clear. So we're now going to just give that a quick heat in the glory hole and then go into the cup that's sitting waiting. Right. So he's You saw it dribble into the bucket. He's doing something. Thank you. Why don't the irons get hot? The question is, why don't the irons get hot? Shall I move those? They're in your way. So the question is, why don't the irons get hot? And the fact is, they do get hot. They're quite well made, solid stainless, not solid, hollow stainless steel, but actually that's one of your irons, is it, James? So James, amongst his many talents, he makes tools as well. He runs a company called Toolbox, and blowing irons are one of the things he makes, along with quite a few of the other tools that he'll be using. And we just had some of our shears. Next time you're in that corner, Anthony, can you show our tool rack? James just refurbished some of our shears, and they're absolutely like they were brand spanking new. Everybody's thrilled to bits to have some workable shears, some shears that work. That would be kind. Thank you. Yeah, good. What a good idea. Thanks, Louis. Cheers, mate. I won't be in anybody's way here, will I?
You'll be mine.
I'm good. Anthony, you okay? So can you show the tools at some point? Anyway, the irons do get hot, but when you've been blowing for quite a while, you learn not to, although James is being brave here. Look, he's handling that way down the iron. That gives him more balance. Clearly very good irons. If the metal of the blowing iron's too thin, it does get incredibly hot. We do have burns from time to time. But it's said in the glassmaking world, you're not really a glassmaker till you've burned yourself quite badly. And I have. Have you? You have. I've seen you. I've seen you with your burns. Probably other people burning you. Now, so this is the amber cup with clear glass over it, and the grey is inside, just a little bubble there. Right, we're about to inflate that. There we go. Oh, nice one, James.
Is it a lot of pressure to blow?
Not if you... So, good question. So the question was, do you need a lot of puff? Is it a lot of pressure to blow? Actually, if you get the time, yes, if it's too cold, you can blow yourself blue in the face. But if you get the timing right, it's hardly anything, just the most delicate breath. So James is doing what's called jacking in at the moment. He's creating a groove where he's going to take the piece off the blowing iron eventually. And Louis is doing some of James's blowing for him. Another tool they've developed, but we haven't got it today. If James were working on his own, he would have a little hose with a mouthpiece that he attaches to the iron, and it's got a swivel, and he can work it. So having Louis there is a boon, obviously. Also nice if you've got a really good assistant team member. I mean, Louis is one of the best blowers in the... Well, these two, actually, we're really lucky. They're two of the best glass blowers in the world. And to have Louis as an assistant makes it that much easier. You're not, otherwise, you're jumping up and down, reheating at the glory hole. Oh, questions coming thick and fast. Good question. Question is, do different colors behave, or do different colors behave differently? Two difference in one sentence. Yeah, they do. They do. Some colors are much softer than others. Reds are really difficult to work with. They're very hard. And if you're working with, say, a red and a blue is very soft, usually. That can cause all kinds of problems, yeah. Fortunately, I don't mind because I like a bit of asymmetry and more organic effects. But if you're trying to control the form, it makes it very difficult if the colors aren't entirely... I think the grey and the amber work quite well together as it happens, but reds are difficult all round because you can't get a good red for a start. We used to get all our reds from the Czech Republic, but then they stopped making them, so we bought up all we could at the time when this company stopped, but we've gone through it, we've used it all. So are you taking that off already?
Undo this up, yeah.
Wow. How come? Is this a cup now?
Yeah, this will be the 5
Wow,
layers, yeah.
okay. So that is in itself a cup. Remember the cups? So he's made a big cup. So he's going to drop clear glass inside that, and the color will all be on the outside. Not just one color, but one color over another color. So this is what's called the punty or pontil, from the French word pontil, punty. And James is about to, you remember that groove he made in the neck with the jacks? Well, hopefully this is going to come away very clean. He's dropping some water into that groove. Here we go. There we are. Nicely done. So you have to keep watching. Things happen fast around here. They don't mess about, these boys. Hi, Bruce. Our studio manager has just turned up. He's part of the audience. Somebody got a question. Sorry, forgive me.
What are the colours actually made from?
Ah, right. Technical question here. What are the colors actually made from? So the glass itself, it contains a huge proportion of silica, which comes in we know it as sand. And to get a glass that's clear like ours, you need a very pure sand, very white, pure sand. And the sand is mixed with what we call fluxes. Sand on its own, or flint, or other forms, quartz, other forms of silica, melt at very, very high temperatures, 15, 16, maybe 2,000 degrees centigrade. So to bring it down to a workable temperature, we add what are called fluxes, and that could be lead. Lead's a famous one, but that's not all that desirable these days, particularly for drinking glasses, which we don't make, incidentally, for the most part. Soda is a very common one, and that's the one. Soda and potash are used in window glass. I suspect that we have a little bit of lithium, borax. Have we got borax in this? Is this a borax in this glass? Yeah. Barium. So it's a mixture of chemicals, and there are thousands of formulae for different kinds of glasses. If you're making pressed glass, it needs to be very quick setting, very hard. if you're making a glass for blowing, it needs to be long working so that you can work it and change it. Okay, that's our big cup now. Going to need a fair amount of glass to fill that. But the question was about colors. So basically they're glasses that are compatible with our base recipe. They have to be compatible. Even the least incompatibility will cause the glass to crack. Even though we anneal the glass for, in our case, for 36 hours, which is quite long, to get rid of some of the tensions in the glass. As we work the glass, we're putting various tensions in there, and the color and the clear glass, or the combination of colors, creates extra tensions. So to go back to the question, we add oxides, chemical oxides to the glass, metallic oxides. So for blue, it's cobalt. For reds, tends to be things like cadmium or selenium. And the Chinese are sitting on most of the stocks of those, so the prices are very high for reds. And I like using red a lot, so that's tricky. Greens come from iron, most part iron, I think, or chrome sometimes. The kind of green that you get in window glass, that's from impurities in the sand, mostly iron. If you want very, very clear window glass, and it's called I think it's called crystal clear glass, that has to be an iron-free sand that they use to make it. What other colors? Purples are manganese. Copper. Copper gives us wonderful blues, bluey greens, a bit like your coat. Yeah. So yeah, I could take you around the gallery and I could probably tell you by pointing. Black is a mixture of often cobalt and manganese. What else? Anthony, have you got any thoughts about coloring glass? Yes. Oh, thanks. Yes, did you hear? That was very important. So precious metals often, ambers often contain silver, and pinks and ruby, they contain gold. Pretty expensive ingredients. So I think nowadays, you know, thanks. People used to think that glass was a very cheap throwaway material. That's becoming less and less true. It's not, in fact, it's absolutely not true here. All our costs are astronomical. So what are we doing here?
This will end up what will be the lines that you find in the middle of the piece.
Oh, right. Oh, right. So you're going to, at the end of this, you're going to have to look fairly closely at James's pieces. I'll try and point it out now. Anthony, do you want to come and... James is working up this element, which is going inside the glass. That one's not white, is it? Is it? Oh, it's white, but it doesn't look white because of the grey and the blue over the top of it. Probably using, to get the very fine detail inside the glass, I was explaining it to you earlier, you need a very special kind of glass. It's almost like a ceramic. And rather than spreading, as most colors do when you gather over them, this one stays quite tight and precise. So I actually haven't seen this bit myself before, so this is fun. This is good. So Louis got hold of the white, and I guess he's going to apply it to the clear in a moment. And today I was saying that Louis is going to trail or whatever he does. Oh, right. Sorry, there's another one here. No, go ahead. Can you speak up? The furnace? No, only clear. So we've had to, making the cups is one way of getting the color in. Doing a trail, which we're about to do, is another way. And I was saying earlier, depending on what effect you want, you have to devise a technique to get the color in there. I mean, in factories and in some studios, maybe they have what are called color pots, but we don't have that. It can be quite limiting too, because it means that you tend to work with those colors rather. I mean, we've got myriad colors sitting around this studio, so yeah. Oh, right. How did James get into glass, James? Serendipity?
Stupidity.
Oh, stupidity. well, that's probably true of all the question was, how did James get into glass? And the answer is stupidity.
Work experience in school.
Was it? God, really? Oh, yes, because you lived in Bath or Bristol, didn't you?
Yeah.
And so he went to work at Bristol Blue, which is a company. Bristol Blue is a very famous, historically, his famous color. It's a beautiful blue. And there's a company based in Bristol that still makes work in that traditional color, exclusively, I think. And there are one or two other companies like Dartington who use that color as well. And James went there from school to do work experience. In fact, I think your mum used to work there, didn't she?
No, she does now.
Oh, she does now. So James introduced his mum.
Why did he beat it with a blowtorch and not stick it back in there? Was
Ah.
purity or something he was trying to
Yes, good question, yes. So the question was, why did you use the torch on that little, on that point?
Every now and again, the newspaper can stick to the surface of the glass, and
So there was a little bit of ash.
the cleanliness of it. So just getting rid of.
So we need to lubricate his paper. That's what his super assistant would be doing if he weren't doing something else. So it's just what we do is build up a layer of carbon, either on a wooden block, which James doesn't tend to use, or on a paper pad, a wet paper pad. So that's a hot torch. So, James, oh, right. Not a good time to ask you this. Okay. So this is a trail. So one of the things that we're discovering as we work, or we will discover, is that we build the forms up in layers. And this is going to be the internal, the very center of the piece. I don't know if we've got any when you go into the gallery, if you look at those pieces up on the top shelf, they're called ferns. They're my pieces, they're ferns. You'll see that the color's on the outside and the trail has been added to the outside of the piece. In James's case, now he's creating an effect where the trail is on the inside of the piece. Louis does rather similar things with his DNA series. I mean, the good thing about working in a group situation like this is that it ends up being something of a creative hub, and we all critique each other, we all influence each other, not intentionally. Basically, we're all trying to find our own personal direction, so that work by someone like Tim Rawlinson, and this isn't working for the audience. This isn't working for the audience. No,
Why
it's
you do
only
it then?
I'm doing it.
No, I know, but you're waving your arm around like
Oh,
this.
am I? Okay, sorry. Yes, that's fine. I hadn't forgotten that question. It was just the question. The next question is, what is James's inspiration behind the Clovis series? I think I did say it was based on, well, this is my opinion. You know, it's based on things like primitive axe heads, and but I'll ask James. But I didn't want to ask him just when he was in the middle of that particularly critical bit of the process. Maybe I could ask him now. James, what was the inspiration behind Clovis? Could you?
Let me just get this in the thing.
Sure. Sorry. Not a good moment.
There'll be a little bit of cool off time. I'll go over it.
Yeah. All right. Good. Lovely. Not for me. Not for me, I take it. Actually, would you like a drink? So, right. Pardon? Right. I'll get to this question in a moment. I think we're at an interesting bit of the process now. Are we?
Take one little skim, one little bit of clear, and we'll gather.
Oh right. Oh right. Okay. Well, while that's happening, then we're gathering again. Peter, how did you get into glass? So I was teaching ceramics in the USA quite early in the development of the studio glass movement. So in the early 60s, I found myself, or mid-60s actually, I found myself teaching ceramics at the University of Iowa. And just a year or so prior to that, a potter called, sorry, can you see all right? I'm not in your way. A potter called Harvey Littleton, whose dad worked at Corning, had come to the conclusion, or he'd asked the question at least, why can't you make glass like you could make pottery as an individual? You know, a potter working away at his wheel in his studio. Glass tended to be made in big factories, behind closed doors. All the secrets were passed from father to son. In medieval times, they used to send out death squads from Murano or from Venice to stop their glassmakers selling the secrets to the Bohemians or to the Netherlands or wherever. You know, everybody wanted to know, how do you do this? And so Harvey Littleton asked the question, and he set up a symposium to explore that. And one of the guys who attended that came to my campus. Oh, thanks, that's brilliant. Thank you. Gosh, so that's how it's done. I haven't actually seen that done before myself. That's neat, very nice. What James has done is he's created a bit of an undercut there. I assume he's going to work now to get rid of that, because if he doesn't, when he gathers again, he'll trap some air. So, is that true? Is that correct? Have you now got to get rid of this?
No, I leave that in. I'll get one bubble hovering around there, but I don't mind the little bubble.
Do you want to say that again?
I don't know if it's on. I need to.
Okay, so normally, if this were my piece, I would worry that I would trap air when I gather over this because of these undercuts here. But James apparently isn't too concerned, so we're going to see what he comes up with. We might get a little bubble. Bubbles are good, actually. They give depth to the piece. You know, we often get customers saying, oh, I don't like that little bubble. Well, then you have to go to Baccarat or Corning or somewhere and pay about 10 times as much, if not more. But I think bubbles give the work depth and character, so I'm not too fussed about them. And clearly he isn't either. Are you all right?
Yeah, I couldn't answer your question about why
yeah,
and stuff.
do you want to talk about Clovis, the inspiration for Clovis?
Yeah, so I do get a lot of people say, get the reference back to things being about Neolithic tools, but in all honesty, I spent a lot of time making a lot of work for other people, laying my hands at completely different kinds of glass making, different skills every single day, and I didn't really make much for myself. And one day I just found a little hammer in the back of my toolbox, and it just happened to be on the side of my bench for some reason, and I just had a bit of glass I need to get rid of, and I hit it to try and break it off. I thought I'd just get rid of that, and it was really satisfying. I thought I need to do that again. And then there become a skill-based side of it, of getting the fractures right, getting them clean, you know, get the piece not falling on the floor while you're trying to smash it, but it's still being smooth enough that you can touch it, but visually aggressive enough that you could tell that it had been broken. And then when you're cold working it, it hasn't got big grooves in it that all the cerium and pumice get into. And so they've become this long technical aspect of it. during that, also looking at things that I enjoy while I'm just wandering around museums and things, and like Peter saying, like artifacts and like Neolithic tools and small things just interest me as to why the hell are they even in a museum to start with, and why have those ones ended up there? We know when you go and see museum collections of particular artifacts that we can trace their history. We know why they're there. They have historical importance. Quite often things like Neolithic tools, they may have come from a particular site, but we have no idea who actually used them, how they were actually made. We have no documentation on these things. And so I kind of like this idea that I'll make a batch of 15 or 20 of them, and then it'll be the ones that survive that end up by going together and going into galleries. And I kind of like the idea that's exactly the same with the ones that end up in museums. It's the ones that have survived all this time in a farmer's field and managed not to be ploughed for a decade that end up in a museum, because they're the ones that are whole, and they're the ones that look the nicest, yet there's probably hundreds of them in a drawer in a basement, or the most perfect one is probably still in the corner of a field somewhere. So I kind of look at the pieces in that same manner when I put them together, and then when I'm finishing the pieces, it's important for me that certainly the tool pieces don't have, it'd be very easy for me to put a flat on the bottom so they just stand up, but you wouldn't take an artifact and grind a part of it off of it and then stand it up, but just make it easy to display. The way that they're displayed in museums, the people curating there and looking at how these things are grasped, how they're put there, how they're mounted, they spend a long time thinking of that. So a lot of the composition of them, the way that I make the armatures to hold them and to hide them behind, getting that balance and everything important, that's where a lot of the inspiration from the tooling and museum collections and artifacts came from, rather than me trying to replicate it with a hammer early on. So there is a lot of...
You are a toolmaker?
I am, yeah. But there's a lot of significance in those tools, but that wasn't the primary inspiration. The primary inspiration was more purely just finding a hammer.
Process.
And I've always used the same hammer to make every single piece I've done. And I often get asked the question, what would I do if I lost the hammer? And to be all honesty, I would probably stop making the series of work, because that's been with me throughout the whole thing. It's part of it. Every time I chip it off, there's marks on the hammer that have come from making all the pieces, and I think I just move on to something else. So no stealing it.
Is it a special, is it an ice pick or something?
No, it's just a small hammer that a technician at the RCA gave me, who somebody else had given it to him, so it just has more sentimental value than anything. It's just a nice thing.
Well, the handle's
There you go. I
like
better
the
finish
base.
making this.
The
Yeah.
handle's like the base of your
Just
pieces.
fix it.
Yeah, it's lovely. I agree.
It's more about a beauty of process and yeah.
I think it's true to say that quite a lot of our work is process-led. One thing seems to lead on to the next. You know, one idea grows out of another. I was trying to. Well, considering what James was gathering over, that looks pretty good to me. It doesn't look as though there's a huge amount of air being trapped. I think he's done a really good. Well, he knows how to gather glass, doesn't he? Nice job, yeah. That's very nicely done. Really good. Quite impressive. Well done, James. Yeah, this is quite a delicate little hammer. It's quite a nice little tool. So to finish, I was being asked how I got into glass. So I was explaining that one of Harvey Littleton's students from that first symposium came to the campus that I was teaching at the University of Iowa, and we built a little glass studio, and I signed up. I was teaching, but I signed up as a student and managed to burn myself quite badly within about 2 or 3 days. It was very much the blind leading the blind at that point, and we weren't properly supervised, I have to say. And I thought that was the end of my glassmaking career. But once you get hooked, once it really gets under your skin. And I have to say, watching James work now, I never get tired of watching other people work. Well, one doesn't get tired of watching people work, does one? So that's nicely done. So that twist, that form is twisted now, and it's looking better and better. Yeah, looking good, eh? So that trail that went on, as it were, horizontally, is now turned into what would you call that form?
It looks like a tennis ball. And then when you flatten it, that'll go from that, and then you'll get this sort of figure of 8 shape.
How is that?
Warm enough?
Yeah, warm enough for you? Yeah. So James is just letting the glass set up prior to taking yet another gather, I guess. Last gather and then the cup. Yeah.
At the very end. If I do that too early, everyone leaves before I finish the piece.
Yeah, I would like to steal it.
Now I know where it's gone if it ever disappears.
I like the relationship between the handle and the bottom of his pieces. I think it's really nice. But we take inspiration from all kinds of things. Sometimes we set a theme. We had an exhibition a few years ago called Vetro. We had so many customers coming in saying, Murano, oh, wonderful, you know. And that, you know, when that happens, our hearts sink, you know. And look, a lot of the techniques we use are based on the Italian techniques. So we thought, why not, rather than fighting that, why not join them, you know? Let's do an exhibition inspired by Venetian techniques. So we did Vetro as an homage to the fantastic traditions and history of the Venetian glassmakers. And it was a hugely successful exhibition, and it inspired all of us, not to copy, but to work on ideas inspired by. And one of the ideas that I've been working on for now a number of years is something akin to what he's done there, working with that particular glass, that very hard glass, and creating very, very fine threading, and maybe then changing the axis to create a network. I'm interested in network. Sorry, are you okay? There's a fair weight of glass there now. James, how many kilos of glass do you think you've got there? 7 or 8 or 10?
No, it was definitely not up to 10.
Maybe?
6 or 7 maybe. There's another 1.5 kilos maybe in the cup.
Right. It's going to be about 10 kilos on the end of a pipe. Oh, he's pinched my hammer. It's much heavier on the end of a blowpipe than it would be if you were just holding it. I can tell you that from experience. Anthony, have you been back and shown them the... You have, yeah. Are there many bubbles in that?
Couple.
Just a couple.
I quite like them. They sit and they
Yeah.
just alternate between the lines.
Yeah, that's lovely. I think James will show it to you before it's finished. There are a few little bubbles, but they happen to be in a row just between the lines. Really nice. So why does James use newspaper as a question? The way I burnt myself was not having newspaper between the hot glass and my hand. I happened to have dropped my newspaper as I was rolling back the glass. You need the newspaper, or the wet newspaper, as a way of protecting yourself, and also of having some sort of tool. You could use what we call a wooden block. I could show you a wooden block, maybe. Anthony, when you've a moment. This is a block. They're always kept wet, and it's an alternative to using the newspaper. But this in itself weighs This is wet. This weighs quite a few pounds, and the newspaper's a much better and more and simpler way of working, I think. So it's partly there for protection, and it's partly to, well, mostly to help you shape the glass. You could use the Marva, and he will and does use this. This is called the Marva. We're working on there now. So he's filled the cup, and now he's just working the glass so that the cup becomes totally integrated in the parison, or the ball of glass on the end of the blowing iron. The grey is quite delicate, isn't it? Yeah. Which grey is that? Neutral grey, yeah, that's a nice soft grey. And is the amber gelbly or what? Do let me know if I don't answer your questions sufficiently adequately. Louis' T-shirt on the back says the Glass Factory. That's a studio, a large studio in Sweden, near the Costa factory, or very close to the Costa factory. May even be part of what used to be the Costa factory. And Louis and I went and worked there at the invitation of the studio some years ago. It is a very nice experience going and working abroad. I've worked quite a bit in the Czech Republic, as you guys have worked together in the Czech Republic too, haven't you? Yeah. And the Czechs, of course, as you may remember, have a fantastic reputation for glass making. So, and I was actually born in Prague, so it's very much like going home, you know. So effectively, James has done all the blowing. He's now working, sculpting with solid glass.
Just the bottom part? Yeah, so go careful, it's slipping.
As that went into the glory hole, you could see that the white color turned black. It appeared to. I mean, you were seeing it in silhouette. I think the bubbles are very nice, James. They're almost like musical notes or something.
They're nice,
yeah,
scattered in there.
they're really lovely. Okay, I can go now.
Okay. Level.
We're using gravity a lot. Turning the iron against gravity to keep the piece centered, but elongating the piece using temperature and gravity. The paper pad's been replaced now by Okay, the next bit of the process is to flatten this form. It's much easier making round forms than it is making flat forms. But we all seem to like flat forms. Or we do, and James does. I'll get out of the way. So we've discovered that using a block of cork, to flatten and shape the form doesn't, if you use the marva, it would leave all kinds of ripples from this cold marva. And if we use paper or wood, it would leave ash deposit. The cork's got a build-up of carbon, so it seems to work really well.
other end must be quite significant. And you think that would cause cracking itself? Where it's
Well,
on the tube,
it could if it got too cool. Yeah, it got too cold. That happened to me last week, actually. That very thing. I had a kind of corner on a piece, and that corner got too cold because it was thinner there. So, still using gravity, swinging the piece out. Are you getting nervous? It's going to get longer.
Wanted to experience how it was. It felt like it was burnt.
Oh no, it rolled it back over my hand. But
If you catch it, you can keep it.
Okay, thank you. Can I borrow the hammer as well? I'll borrow the hammer and do my own.
Yes.
So that's not paper now, it's something else he was using.
he's using some sort of synthetic some fabric thing. It just gives a nice surface, I
So you
think.
start seeing where that figure of 8 comes from, but also you start seeing the differences in the thickness of the colours, those layers.
Yes, the colour fades. That's a really nice shape, James. Internally, I mean. Beautiful.
Right off. Yeah. Doesn't have to clear the tree. Leave it running back to the mark, like putting on back the marble if you wanted, just like take it all. Do what you like.
So that exactly your point. So he's got to heat that part, make sure it's hot enough. Because otherwise this end gets hot, but that end gets too cold and it'll just fall off or crack off or hit the deck. Is that,
It's like a pad for the antique.
is it? So Louis is creating a pad for the next punty. The punty being added to the base. It's going to be transferred from the blowing from that iron, from the iron that he's working on, to another iron, so that he can shape the end that's attached to the iron currently. That's a solid iron. That's not a blowing iron. Sorry, what were you good? Getting on for 10 kilos. Something between 8 and 10 kilos. That pad, that block of glass is going to be removed later using cold working techniques, grinding and polishing. I think
That block on the bottom has a very particular
function.
couple of jobs. So yeah, this is part of what's taken me a long time to learn how to do things, or to learn the little nuances of these pieces. Partly that gives me somewhere when I put the punty on it for it to sit, and then when we knock it off, I don't pull out the bottom of the piece, so we can actually sculpt it back to its original shape. Another function of it is when you would come to see us later on, when we're heating up the bit to finally smash it, all the heat is in the opposite places to what you want the heat in the opposite place to where it naturally is. The long thin tip is going to be really, really, really hot, and the body is going to be quite cold. But I want the whole thing quite cold, chilly in the middle, and then that block there we heat up, and it moves from there, and it basically acts as a little bit of a hot shock absorber between the punty and the piece. So while that's hot, it means that it's less likely to crack and hit the floor. And then thirdly, won't be doing it here, but back at mine and Katie's studio, when we put these things away, when you come to see us finish the piece and they have to go into the annealing chamber, I actually hang these upside down. So they look like bats when they're sitting there. So that block there is a bit that actually locates into a hanging rack, which I have in the kiln. It means I can put them away a little bit hotter. They naturally straighten themselves. They don't touch the sides of the wall or the floor, so you get very, very few flaws in them. And then my cold worker likes me a lot more.
And question,
Yeah.
how in fact are we going to get that into the annealer?
Oh, we're going to stand it up, but it'll be fine. Yeah.
No, but
I'll
I'm.
run around people. It's
Will
fine.
you?
You run at people with hot glass, they move very fast.
Yeah. So the annealers are behind you. I think, are we going into the black one?
Yes.
Okay. So just a few of you will have to move fairly fast to get out of the way. We'll give you a bit of warning.
Edges up.
So as he said, the piece itself, has got to be cold enough to put the punty on, and Lou is just keeping the top hot enough, warm enough to so that it doesn't fall off the iron. That's an even thicker, heavier iron, isn't it?
Same as the one it's on.
Is it? Is it? Okay.
Very much so.
So the temperature is fairly critical to make sure this sticks. I have to say, they both look pretty relaxed, don't they?
Sides up. Flip. Edges turn it. Start putting a bit of water on it.
Maybe, maybe. It must be hipsters or something. I said to James, it's beginning to look like Rasputin.
Yeah, we're kind of ready whenever you are. Oh yeah. Just extra second. We're doing a demo, Chloe.
He's got to let that hot punty cool sufficiently to take the weight when it breaks off. Whoa. And that's broken off very cleanly, very nicely for a cold piece, for a solid object, solid piece. Any more questions?
Any irons, special irons over there?
Right. The question is, why do they swing the glass? Well, to use gravity to elongate it. You know, if the temperature's right, the glass will elongate. And you have to be careful it doesn't, if it's not too hot, it will just simply, as with the swinging, you know, just simply. But he knows what he's doing, fortunately. So, yeah, better sit in the second row. If this were a factory, if we were working more than, say, 5 minutes on a piece, that would be too long. You know, to work an hour or two on a single piece is in glassmaking terms, that's it's quite a long time. And with our own work, the way we use color and introduce color, that can take ages, a lot of effort, a lot of time.
Try and do everything with edges up now. Stop whenever you want. Flip. 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 Flip.
So James is currently shaping the glass using cork pads. So James is currently nipping the glass, or as it were, tweezering the glass out in order to create an area that he's going to work on with the hammer, and also to be able to pull the form out to elongate the form. If this were in Murano, they'd be making a fish. Wouldn't they? Probably be a magnificent fish.
Back. Okay, just little flash. I'm just going to cut that off, then I'll take it off here. Very, very, very short flash. Just enough for me to just shear that through. It's fast.
Are you all right with the glory hole door?
Yeah. Just while that's wobbly.
Right. How hot are your gloves, James? Yeah, we don't normally wear gloves when we're working. They're counterproductive. But obviously, obviously,
Yeah, I'll take it off.
yeah. Anyway, obviously the gloves are there for protection.
Actually, yeah. Can you just open the other door a second?
Louis, some studios have ladders for this kind of thing. Dale Chihuly or Steve Tobin in the USA, who make pieces several meters long, have ladders or lifting gear. There was an Italian designer called Vistosi who used to have a wonderful cherry picker that rose as the glass flowed. Anyway, we're going to get this to the right temperature, and Louis is going to hold it, and I guess James is going to pull it down. Well, I've never seen jacks used like that before. That's brilliant. Lovely. Nice job, James.
How are your shins?
It's good, this, isn't it? So James is modifying the form with those tweezers by pulling and using gravity again, pulling the hot glass to shape it, rather than touching it in any way. I mean, touching it with a pad in any way. James has a longer or deeper glory hole in his own studio, so we may be working to the limits of our glory hole. How hot do your gloves get, James? Okay. So there's always a danger of the punty, the block, getting too cold, and the piece just simply, bearing in mind that it's something between 8 and 10 kilos of glass, that it's simply ending up on the floor. So now that's a nice gentle heat. The other thing, of course, is the fact that the glory hole possibly isn't quite long enough, means that the punty could get too cold. We've still got a few inches to go. Can't quite get all the way in. So something that's perhaps worth saying is, we often get asked, how long did this piece take you? And I've already said that the length of time we spent on this is quite long. However, that's not what matters here. I mean, you spent months and months, years possibly, developing the method, the technique. So sometimes the answer is 40 years. Yes, that's as long as I've been working. You can see the glass is still moving slightly. So you've got to keep the punty hot enough, but the glass that he's about to chip cool enough. So the chips go which way? Oh, good. Fingers crossed. So I've never. So actions speak louder than words here. Do you get some good shots? Do you get some good shots? So using the hot torch to take off any sharp really bit, soften it, yeah.
Just mounting it nicely so that that guy who does all your cold work in chemistry doesn't like. Look at me. It's you doing it. Kim A does flats.
So James is just softening off any sharp edges from the chipping technique.
Couple of flashes done. Yeah, he was a couple of flashes there. Get it off, get it away. Yeah, that's right, straight back.
Yes, right, yeah.
It goes there, bear in mind, it always goes off slightly.
Do you want to move back that way? And that's good, thanks. Are you coming through here? Good idea.
I'll think of you, you can get through that.
In fact, I think I'll get out of the way as well.
Track up here. Yes,
James?
that bit to
James.
the shelf. Like, you get the chips facing out. If you can do that bit and that bit to the shelf. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that here?
This is
This to the back, right?
Yeah, it's not sharp. It's ideally, if it's going to mark anywhere, I'd like it to mark that side and that side. Just show people one flash. No. Take time tonight. Off of the bench.
I think the internal trailer is a really nice shape, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really lovely.
There you go.
Yeah.
Can I ask you to put the microphone down and hold the jacks around that when I knock it off?
Yeah.
Please?
I think
That'd be great.
well,
Yeah, just 2 seconds. One more spot after that. Okay, squeeze.
so that's going to stay in there for a couple of days.
Ready?
Yeah. That's going to anneal in that black kiln for at least 2 days at a temperature of around 500 degrees centigrade. So listen, I want to say thanks to James and Louis for a fantastic demo. And I really want to thank Anthony and his dad and Abby here. And we were latterly joined by Harry to help us put the piece away. Yeah. Harry was up in the gods there, watching from a distance. Thank you all for being very patient and sticking with it. It was a fantastic demo. And I guess the piece will look amazing. And hopefully will be for sale at some point.
Hopefully.
So
If not, the rest are.
yes, well said. Yes, please do take some time to enjoy what's in the gallery, and thank you very much for being here with us. And yeah.